Hi everyone, welcome back to the Genus Brewing channel. Today I have the mash and boil here once again, and I am ready to do another all-grain brew session. However, I have this fridge in the background, and that is because I am going to mash in this fridge. Stay tuned and find out why. I'm going to be building up a pale ale recipe. How's that sound? So I'm going to start out with some good old base malt. I'm going to go with 6 pounds of base malt. Sounds about right. Next, I'm going to be adding, let's go with 2 pounds of wheat malt. So what this wheat's going to do is it's going to have what are called beta-glucans and also some body-building dextrins that won't get broken down during a saccharification rest. So that's going to kind of hopefully build up a little bit of the body of this beer. I'm at 8 pounds total now, so I'm going to add some Crystal 40 to this. I'm actually going to be pretty liberal here. I am going to go ahead and add 1.5 pounds. Normally I would really encourage everybody to stay away from adding this much Crystal into any sort of hop forward beer just because it's really going to distract from the flavors, but because I plan on this beer being relatively dry, I kind of want some of that sweetness to stay in there. On that note, I think that's going to be good enough for a fairly simple recipe. So just to recap, I got 6 pounds of pale two-row, I've got 2 pounds of a white wheat, and 1.5 pounds of caramel 40 malt. I think that'll give us actually a really nice color, and also hopefully maintain some of that body in the beer because it's only going to be, you know, a starting gravity of something like 1010 or 1015. Let's mill her up. Oh, I should probably take you with me. Alright. Back over to our mash here. Oh yeah, I should probably put water in there. Cold water this time. Time to steer some mash. So at this point, it's probably a good time to be doing some water chem, but I think I'm just going to skip on that for now. Otherwise, I would probably add a little bit of sulfate in, but I don't know. What do you all think? So another thing I've done here on purpose is I've made a really, really thin mash. And what my goal is with this thin mash is that I will be able to better dissolve all of the good stuff, the dextrins, the beta-glucans, the maltotrioses, stuffs, out of solution so I can keep those body-building molecules in the final beer. Right now my mash is actually really turning into like a milky thing, which I think is good. We'll see. Okay, we've got her all stirred in. Let's go ahead and plug this guy in real quick and see what my temperature is. So it looks like we're sitting at 59 degrees Fahrenheit right now, so this is already pretty cool. But even with that temperature, there is the potential for some Brettanomyces or other wild yeast strains that are naturally on these grains to want to essentially start doing their own fermentations with this mash. So I'm going to stick it in the fridge to keep it even colder and keep any of those bugs from trying to have their way. You guys can come with me now. Uh-oh, that's an issue. Let's see if we can put this in without spilling. Low and slow wins the race, so I'm going to go ahead and leave this in here overnight, come back in the morning, and see how we're doing.
What the f*** is this?
You want some beer?
You did your cold mash, didn't you?
No.
God damn it.
It's been over 24 hours now, and it's actually looking like it's clear and settled out in here, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this out and start sparging. So at this point, I'm just going to start sparging this normally. I'm going to actually use some of our bottled water here, even though people tend to hate that. But, so the only difference now between this beer and a beer that we would go through a normal mash on is that I'm still cold, so I'm still at 40 degrees right now, and we're going to do the whole sparge process cold. I'm still going to do a recirculation process on here, just to make sure there's no grain husk or anything floating around the bottom. Interesting thing that you can probably see if I tilt over is that this is coming out really milky, which doesn't surprise me, because at this point I would assume that all of those starches are still non-converted. But I'm going to try to recirculate this anyway to minimize any huskiness. Huskiness, is that a word? One other thing to note that I'm just like picking up on this too, this actually has a really intensely grainy smell to it, and I did taste it, and it tastes grainy too. So that's kind of an interesting thing that normally at this point in a beer, you're not going to taste like that at all. Now that I've started sparging, I've got my wort-ish at the bottom here, so I'm going to go ahead and turn my temperature up to right around 150 degrees to actually let those few sugars and starches in there go through a natural conversion.
Logan, what are you doing?
I am cleaning this kettle for the second time now. It turns out when you do a cold mash, it ends up with a whole bunch of, what is that, like flour? Starches that like to coagulate and scorch on the bottom of your mash and boil and cause it to error. This isn't fun anymore, folks. Looks like all that stuff in there is what was causing my issues. That must be some weird proteininess, starchiness that sinks to the bottom and instantly scorches and smells like burnt toast. Now you can see I'm a little bit above 150, so I've got it to my saccharification rest. I'm going to give it about 20 minutes here on a saccharification rest, and so this is going to convert the few sugars that I have in there. As of right now, I did take a gravity reading to see where I'm at, and it looks like I'm just a hair above 1020, which is a little higher than I was wanting it to be, but still in the ballpark of what I think would be a pretty darn low alcohol beer. After I went through about a 20-minute mash rest, I ended up kicking my temperature up, and now you can see here that I'm at a boil, and I'm going to boil this for, I would say, about 20 minutes. Really, we're not going to need to boil it for a long time because we're not really focusing on efficiency. But I do want to boil my volume down because I'm a little bit high right now. As you can see here, the wort's looking pretty clear, and there are some fairly large clumps in that, which to me indicate that there must have been some proteins, some potentially beta-glucans, and those dextrins that got into there. Definitely those proteins are trying to break out of solution right now, so that's an interesting note on brewing this. One other thing I should mention is that I actually sampled this right as it was coming up to a boil, and oddly enough, it tasted kind of like beer, not really like wort, because it didn't have a lot of sugar in it. So I'm definitely going to try to hop on a very, very low IBU sort of basis. My first hop addition is going to actually be a flame out addition. I'm going to put, looks like 1.2 ounces of nuggets and I think about an ounce of Azaka hops in as a whirlpool. So I'm going to put that in right at flame out and then drop it really close. That way I'm only getting 5 or 10 IBUs of utilization from those, because otherwise I feel like this beer will end up being just way, way too bitter. Some Azaka, some nugget. So here we are. It's been about a week or so from brew day. This beer is now completely done. It's actually been done for a while. It took about 2.5 days to realistically ferment out. So we're going to go ahead and pull a sample off of this thing and see where we're at. And also going to pull a couple samples, and we're going to bring them up to Peter and see what he thinks of it. It looks like beer. Smells kind of funky. Alright, Peter. It's time to taste some beer.
Yeah, this is dumb. It smells grainy. Kind of tastes like an ESB.
Smells like Crystal 40 to me. I used a lot of Crystal 40 in this.
Tastes a little dry. Kind of tastes scorched, if that makes sense.
A little scorched. Well, it did scorch. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right.
that
Yeah,
could be
you were-
what's going on.
When you were boiling it up, it did burn a bit.
On day 3, it was pretty much undrinkable. It had that graininess that Peter's talking about was actually really, really overwhelming. It tasted straight up like you were chewing on a piece
Still
of hay.
get a little bit of that greeny kind of graininess.
Yeah, and that's still in here, but actually this is drinkable now, I think.
Just
It's,
tastes like a scorched ESB.
Ran it through a calculator. We're right at about 1.8% alcohol, 1.9%. So I would say that is not a complete fail.
It's pretty much a fail. You spent a lot of time making a not alcoholic but not alcoholic beer.
So it can work. It is dry though. It's still a dry beer, even with all that caramel malt in it. So overall, what do you think? I mean, I know you hate it.
Yeah, no,
but
it's
I
terrible.
think it actually it can work. I think if you probably paid a little more attention than what I was doing, you can actually make this work.
I think we both agree that it was an awful idea and should never be done.
Never ever again. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that little video on my highly experimental cold mashing method and brewing low alcohol beer. So stay tuned next time. Genus Brewing. Do the diddly do things.
Like, subscribe, comment, ring the bell for notifications, and we'll see you alligators laters.
Bam.
Ironically, I'm probably going to chug this all in one day once it's carbonated. I'm not getting drunk.
Oh, you're still recording, all right. You really like to just make me have a lot of footage.
I made a cut.
All right.
Let's see if we can get this. Is it endless?